Lily's dream and doodles. The stale marriage of coffee and disinfectant permeated the waiting room, a familiar, unwelcome fragrance for Lily. Her finger idly traced the frayed seam of her denim, her thoughts replaying the morning's hostile exchange. The taunts about her shoes still ignited a flush in her cheeks, a hot tide of indignation. Yet, a faint smile soon softened her lips as she recalled her exit, the crisp cardstock of a job offer clutched in her hand. A small triumph, perhaps, but profoundly significant. A sudden buzz from her phone startled her. An unfamiliar number. She hesitated, then answered, her voice a little unsteady. "Hello. Is this Lily Harrison?" A clipped, authoritative voice inquired. "Yes, it is. This is Mrs. Albright from Sterling and Finch. I'm calling to follow up on your interview this morning." Lily's heart hammered against her ribs. Had they reconsidered? "Yes, Mrs. Albright. We were very impressed with your portfolio, Ms. Harrison, and your forthrightness. We'd like to formally offer you the position of junior graphic designer. Your start date would be next Monday." Relief, so potent it verged on giddiness, washed over Lily. "Thank you, Mrs. Albright. I accept. Thank you so much." A genuine smile finally broke through, dissolving the tension that had coiled within her since dawn. Later that evening, enveloped in the comforting quiet of her small apartment, Lily found herself drawn to her sketchbook. The soft scratching of charcoal on paper was a balm to her jangled nerves. She began with a flurry of lines, a chaotic burst of energy that slowly coalesced into the image of a woman standing tall, head held high, a defiant glint in her eyes. Around her, indistinct, fading figures pointed and whispered. It was herself, she realized, her subconscious processing the morning's events. As she sketched, a new idea sparked. What if the woman wasn't just defiant, but triumphant? She began to refine the image, adding intricate details to the woman's dress, a flowing gown that seemed to shimmer with an inner luminescence. The faceless figures began to shrink, their power diminishing with each stroke of her pencil. Then, she drew a pair of shoes at the woman's feet, not the sensible, slightly worn flats she'd chosen that morning, but fantastical, winged creations poised for flight. These shoes weren't mere accessories, they were an emblem of freedom, of upward mobility. Hours dissolved as she lost herself in the creative current. The drawing wasn't just an outlet, it was a revelation. It was a visual representation of her burgeoning confidence, of a strength she hadn't fully recognized. This wasn't merely a doodle, it was a blueprint for her future. She looked at the finished sketch, a satisfied sigh escaping her lips. The woman on the page wasn't simply walking away, she was soaring. This was more than a job offer, it was a foundational step, a confirmation that her unconventional path was the right one. A letter of hope. The crisp morning air, usually a balm, felt charged with an unfamiliar electricity. Elara sat at her polished mahogany desk, the one she'd inherited from her grandmother, a single, unassuming envelope resting on the dark wood. It wasn't a bill, nor an advertisement. The elegant script, a flourish of loops and delicate lines, was unmistakably Amelia's. Her heart, a hummingbird trapped in a cage, fluttered against her ribs. She'd spent the last week in a whirlwind of negotiations, the memory of the interview still vivid, the dismissive sneers over her worn, but beloved, shoes, the triumphant satisfaction of securing the senior design role at Sterling and Finch. Yet, even with the new job's intoxicating promise, a part of her felt adrift. Amelia, her mentor and surrogate mother figure, had been unreachable since Elara left her old company. Elara had tried calling, texting, even visiting her apartment, only to find it silent and dark. With trembling fingers, she tore open the seal. A faint scent of lavender, Amelia's signature perfume, wafted from the parchment. The words blurred for a moment, then coalesced into Amelia's familiar, steady voice in her mind. "My dearest Elara," the letter began, "forgive my silence. It was necessary. The pressure on me to discredit you, to make you disappear, was immense after you defied them at the interview. My silence was the only way to protect you, and frankly, myself. Ilara's breath hitched. Discredit her. Make her disappear. The casual cruelty of her former employers, the same ones who'd mocked her shoes, truly knew no bounds. A cold dread seeped into her, quickly followed by a surge of defiant anger. I'm writing now because I've found something, Amelia continued. Evidence. Not just of their unethical practices, but something far more damaging. It's why I had to go quiet. I've been building a case, piecing together fragments. It's bigger than just their treatment of you, though your experience was the final catalyst for me to act. Meet me at the old lighthouse at sunset, 3 days from now. Come alone. Trust no one. The final sentence, stark and unembellished, sent a shiver down Ilara's spine. The old lighthouse. A place of forgotten secrets, battered by the relentless sea. It was a risky proposition. Amelia was hinting at something truly dangerous, something that could unravel a powerful corporation. Ilara considered her options. She could ignore the letter, settle into her new job, and forget the past. Or she could step into the unknown, driven by a loyalty that ran deeper than any professional ambition. She ran her thumb over the elegant script, feeling the weight of the paper, the gravity of Amelia's plea. The sun, now higher, cast a golden rectangle across her desk, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about justice. The decision, though terrifying, felt inevitable. She would go. The worn shoes dilemma. The familiar scuff of her worn sneakers against the polished linoleum of the bustling coffee shop was a stark contrast to the crisp, new suit jacket draped over the back of her chair. Ilara traced the intricate stitching of a forgotten coffee ring on the table, her mind a whirlwind of possibilities and anxieties. The interview at Sterling and Finch had been unexpected. The job offer, even more so. But the lingering sting of the HR manager's thinly veiled disdain for her shoes, a pair of once trusty canvas, now faded and frayed, still pricked. Across from her, Liam, ever the pragmatic optimist, swirled the ice in his glass of iced tea. So, a senior marketing position, Ilara. That's huge. You nailed it, despite their snobbery. He offered a sympathetic smile, knowing the story by heart. Ilara sighed, pushing a stray curl behind her ear. It is, Liam. It's everything I've worked for. But, she gestured vaguely towards her feet, tucked almost defensively under the table. I keep replaying the look on their faces. Like my shoes were a personal affront to their corporate ethos. Liam leaned forward, his voice dropping slightly. Their loss if they can't see past a pair of shoes to the brilliant mind wearing them. The question is, can you? She picked at a loose thread on her sleeve. That's the dilemma. This job could change everything for us. For Mom, for the bills. But accepting it feels like a concession. Like I'm validating their superficiality. A bitter taste filled her mouth. It's like they offered me the job despite my shoes, not because of my skills. Or, Liam countered, his gaze firm, they offered it because you were so undeniably good, they couldn't afford not to. And your walking out, holding the offer, made a statement they understood. It showed them you have integrity, that you know your worth. That's a powerful message, Ilara. The coffee shop's chatter seemed to fade, leaving only the weight of Liam's words. He was right. Walking out, holding that offer, hadn't been an act of defiance for defiance's sake. It had been a quiet assertion of her own value, an unspoken challenge to their narrow-mindedness. Yet, the image of herself, stepping into their gleaming lobby with those same worn shoes, felt like a concession. What if, she mused, a flicker of an idea sparking, I accept the job, and then I don't change my shoes. Not for a while, anyway. The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. It felt like a subtle act of rebellion, a quiet reclaiming of her narrative. Liam's eyes widened, a slow grin spreading across his face. Now that's the Ilara I know. A Trojan horse of talent, wearing the very thing they judged. He raised his glass to the worn shoes dilemma, and the woman who's about to redefine it. Elara felt a lightness she hadn't experienced since the interview. The decision, though small in the grand scheme of things, felt monumental. It wasn't about the shoes themselves, but what they represented, her journey, her struggles, and her refusal to be anything less than her authentic self. The worn shoes wouldn't be a mark of shame, they would be a quiet, powerful symbol. And with that thought, a surge of resolve propelled her forward. Sterling and Finch was about to get more than just a senior marketing manager. They were about to get a lesson. Getting ready for the big day. The scent of lavender and freshly brewed coffee hung heavy in Amelia's apartment, a stark contrast to the nervous energy thrumming beneath her skin. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air and the pristine white of the dress laid out on her bed. It was simple, elegant, and nothing like the power suits she usually favored. This wasn't an interview, it was a celebration, a public declaration. Her phone buzzed, a text from Chloe, almost there. Just snagging emergency glitter glue. You know, for moral support. Amelia chuckled, a genuine sound that surprised her. Chloe, ever the optimist, was exactly what she needed. She picked up the small, velvet box containing the delicate silver earrings her grandmother had worn on her own wedding day. The cool metal felt grounding in her palm. A faint tremor ran through her, not of fear, but of anticipation. Today was the day she officially launched Soul Sister, her passion project, her defiance against the snobbery she'd faced. The email from the Fashion Forward Foundation, confirming her a spot as their keynote speaker, still felt surreal. The doorbell chimed, and Chloe burst in, a whirlwind of vibrant scarf and beaming smile. "Oh, honey, you look radiant. And that dress. It's perfect. Understated elegance, just like your new brand." She plunked a large bag onto the ottoman. "I brought mimosas, a survival kit of snacks, and a playlist designed to banish all pre-event jitters." Amelia managed a weak smile. "I feel less radiant, more, a bundle of nerves wrapped in silk." "Nonsense. Think of all the people you're inspiring. All the women who've been made to feel less than because of their shoes, their clothes, their anything. You're giving them a voice, a platform." Chloe popped the cork on the champagne with a cheerful thwop. "Now, let's get you properly sparkly. And then, we conquer that stage." Later, as Chloe fussed with the final touches of her hair, Amelia caught her reflection. The woman staring back was different from the one who'd walked out of that ill-fated interview. Her eyes, though still holding a flicker of apprehension, also held a fierce determination. She wasn't just presenting a business, she was presenting herself, fully and unapologetically. The shoes she'd chosen for today, a pair of custom-designed, comfortable, yet undeniably stylish flats, were a testament to her journey. They were a quiet rebellion, a statement that comfort and confidence could coexist, even thrive, in the cutthroat world of fashion. The limousine was due in 10 minutes. The countdown had truly begun. First impressions at Creative Corner. The bell above the door of Creative Corner chimed a cheerful, if slightly off-key, welcome as Amelia stepped inside. The air was a rich tapestry of scents, freshly ground coffee, a faint tang of turpentine, and the sweet earthiness of potting soil. Sunlight streamed through a large bay window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air and a vibrant display of hand-painted ceramic mugs. The shop was a delightful chaos of yarn skeins spilling from baskets, canvases stacked against walls, and a rainbow array of beads shimmering under glass. A young woman with a shock of electric blue hair, perched on a stool behind a counter overflowing with sketchbooks, looked up. "Hey! Welcome to Creative Corner. Lost or just admiring the organized disarray?" Her smile was wide and genuine, revealing a small gap between her front teeth. "Admiring, mostly," Amelia replied, a genuine smile touching her lips for the first time since leaving the interview. "Though I am looking for something specific." I need some high-quality watercolor paper and a good set of professional-grade brushes. Ah, a fellow artist, the woman exclaimed, pushing off the stool. I'm Chloe, by the way. You've come to the right place. We pride ourselves on our selection. What kind of work are you planning? She led Amelia towards an aisle lined with art supplies, her movements fluid and energetic. As Amelia browsed the impressive array of paper, she felt a familiar spark ignite within her. It had been too long since she'd allowed herself this indulgence. Just getting back into it, she admitted, picking up a heavy block of cold-press paper. I'm hoping to create a portfolio. A portfolio, huh? Big plans, Chloe mused, her eyes twinkling. We have an open studio night on Thursdays, if you're ever looking for a creative outlet and some feedback. No pressure, just good vibes and bad coffee. Amelia paused, considering the offer. It was tempting, a chance to reconnect with a part of herself she'd neglected. Maybe, she said, a small smile playing on her lips. I'll keep it in mind. She selected a few sheets of paper and then moved to the brushes, her fingers tracing the soft bristles of a sable brush. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the store, followed by a string of muttered apologies. A man, disheveled and covered in what looked like clay dust, emerged from behind a towering shelf of pottery wheels. He had wild, dark hair and intense, intelligent eyes that darted around the room, settling on Amelia for a fleeting moment before he busied himself with righting a fallen stack of canvases. Chloe rolled her eyes playfully. That's Leo, she whispered, leaning closer to Amelia. Our resident sculptor. Brilliant, but a bull in a china shop, literally. He's usually confined to the pottery studio out back for everyone's safety. Leo, apparently sensing he was the subject of conversation, glanced over, a sheepish grin spreading across his clay-streaked face. Just a minor structural readjustment, ladies. Nothing to see here. He winked at Amelia, a fleeting but warm gesture that surprised her. She found herself returning the smile, a flicker of an unfamiliar warmth blooming in her chest. This place, with its vibrant energy and eclectic inhabitants, was already feeling more like home than any sterile office ever could. She paid for her supplies, the crinkle of the paper bags a satisfying sound. As she walked out, the off-key chime of the bell seemed to sing a different tune, one of possibility and unexpected new beginnings. The sting of the interview, the shoes, the judgment, it all felt a little further away, replaced by the promise of paint and paper, and perhaps, even a little bit of magic. Meeting Mr. Harrison. The scent of old paper and polished wood hung heavy in the air as Maya stepped into the outer office. Mrs. Albright, a woman whose stern features were softened only by the faint scent of lavender, gestured towards a heavy oak door. He's expecting you, Miss Sharma. Maya's heart hammered a frantic rhythm against her ribs. This was it. The meeting with Mr. Harrison, the man whose company she'd nearly dismissed after the disastrous interview. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the door open. The office was vast, sunlight streaming through a wall of windows overlooking the city. Mr. Harrison sat behind a massive mahogany desk, a man in his late 50s with intelligent, piercing blue eyes and a neatly trimmed silver beard. He rose, extending a hand. His grip was firm, reassuring. Miss Sharma, please, have a seat. Thank you, Mr. Harrison, Maya managed, settling into a surprisingly comfortable leather chair. Her gaze flickered to his shoes, simple, well-made leather Oxfords, utterly unremarkable. A wry smile touched her lips, quickly suppressed. He leaned back, his expression unreadable. I understand you had an interesting initial interview. Maya felt a flush creep up her neck. It was certainly memorable. He chuckled, a low, rumbling sound. Indeed. Ms. Albright informed me of the incident. And your subsequent departure. He paused, letting the silence stretch, a subtle test. I believe a professional environment should extend respect to all individuals, regardless of their attire, Maya stated, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. My shoes, while perhaps unconventional, had no bearing on my qualifications or my ability to perform the job. Mr. Harrison regarded her for a long moment, his eyes sharp. And yet, you walked out. A bold move for someone seeking employment. I believe it was the right move for someone seeking the right employment, Maya countered, meeting his gaze directly. I refuse to work in a place where superficial judgments override merit. A slow smile spread across his face. I admire your conviction, Miss Sharma. It's a rare quality these days. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. Tell me, what are your thoughts on innovative marketing strategies in a rapidly changing digital landscape? The abrupt shift in topic caught her off guard, but Maya quickly composed herself. This was her chance. She launched into a detailed explanation, outlining her ideas with passion and precision. She watched as his expression shifted from detached observation to genuine interest, occasionally interjecting with incisive questions that forced her to think on her feet. The tension in the room, initially thick with unspoken judgment, began to dissipate, replaced by the hum of intellectual engagement. When she finished, a comfortable silence settled, not a test, but a moment of shared thought. Finally, Mr. Harrison picked up a pen, tapping it lightly against a stack of papers. Miss Sharma, he said, his voice carrying a new weight, I believe you possess a unique perspective that could greatly benefit this company. We'd be delighted to have you join our team. He pushed a thick document across the desk. It was a job offer. The art of the interview and the snicker. The scent of stale coffee and industrial-strength cleaner clung to the air in the waiting room, a stark contrast to the fresh morning outside. Elara smoothed the lapels of her borrowed blazer for the 10th time, her fingers brushing against the slightly frayed seam. Her polished, but undeniably worn, black flats felt heavy on her feet, a silent counterpoint to the sleek, designer heels she'd seen gliding past the reception desk. She'd chosen them for comfort, for the long walk from the bus stop, and for the confident stride they allowed. Elara Vance. A woman with a severe bob and an even severer expression emerged from a doorway, holding a clipboard like a weapon. The hiring committee is ready for you. Elara pushed herself up, offering a small, polite smile. The committee room was colder than the waiting area, a long, polished table separating her from three faces, the severe woman, a portly man with a florid complexion, and a younger woman with meticulously sculpted eyebrows. The portly man gestured to the empty chair, his eyes quickly scanning her from head to toe. Ms. Vance, thank you for coming in, the severe woman began, her voice devoid of warmth. Let's start with your experience at Sterling and Finch. Elara launched into her prepared answers, confident in her abilities, her voice steady despite the internal tremor. She spoke of project management, client relations, and exceeding targets, her words flowing easily. She felt a glimmer of hope, a sense that she was finally making an impression. Then, the younger woman, the one with the sculpted eyebrows, leaned forward, a subtle smirk playing on her lips. Her gaze dropped to Elara's feet. Interesting choice of footwear, Ms. Vance, she drawled, her voice dripping with an almost imperceptible condescension. We usually see something a little more professional in candidates for this role. A faint snicker escaped her lips, quickly stifled, but not before it reached Elara's ears like a splash of cold water. The severe woman's lips tightened, and the portly man shifted in his seat, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. The air in the room thickened, suddenly charged with a different kind of energy. Elara felt a flush creep up her neck, a familiar sting of humiliation. Her carefully constructed composure began to crumble. She looked down at her shoes, the shoes that had carried her through countless internships and part-time jobs, the shoes that were a testament to her pragmatism, not her lack of professionalism. A decision, sharp and unexpected, solidified in her mind. It wasn't a choice born of anger, but of clarity. This wasn't the kind of environment she wanted. This wasn't where her resilience belonged. She met the younger woman's gaze, then the others. Actually, Elara said, her voice quiet but firm, a new resolve hardening her tone. She slowly stood up, the legs of her chair scraping against the polished floor, a surprisingly loud sound in the now silent room. I believe I've seen all I need to see. She picked up her bag, her movements deliberate. Thank you for your time. She turned and walked out, leaving the stunned silence of the committee room behind her. As she reached the reception desk, the severe woman's voice, sharp and urgent, called out, "Ms. Vance, wait." But Elara didn't stop. She pushed open the heavy glass doors, the morning light a welcome balm on her face. Her phone vibrated in her hand. A new email. She glanced down. The subject line read, "Job offer, Senior Project Coordinator." A wise decision. The scent of stale coffee and apprehension clung to the air of the waiting room. Elara traced the worn pattern on the armrest of her chair, her heart a frantic drum against her ribs. Mrs. Albright, her face a mask of polite concern, had just ushered the last candidate out. Elara's interview was next, a final hurdle for the coveted senior marketing manager position at Sterling and Finch. She'd spent weeks preparing, but the thought of facing Mr. Davies, the notoriously stern CEO, still tightened her stomach. A sharp click of a closing door, then Mrs. Albright's voice, a little too bright. "Elara? Mr. Davies is ready for you." Elara rose, her knees feeling unexpectedly wobbly. As she walked down the hushed corridor, she remembered the incident at the previous interview, the snickering over her sensible, slightly scuffed shoes. That memory, instead of deflating her, ignited a quiet resolve. She wouldn't let superficial judgments define her worth. Mr. Davies's office was minimalist, all glass and polished steel, reflecting the late afternoon sun. He sat behind a massive desk, his gaze sharp and unwavering. "Ms. Vance," he rumbled, indicating a chair. "Thank you for coming in again." The interview began with the usual questions about experience and strategy. Elara answered thoughtfully, her voice steady, even as Mr. Davies occasionally interrupted with incisive follow-ups. Then, unexpectedly, he leaned back, a faint smile playing on his lips. "I understand there was a slight misunderstanding during your initial interview with the junior panel." Elara felt a flush creep up her neck. "I believe they had some comments regarding my footwear, sir." Mr. Davies chuckled, a dry, rustling sound. "Indeed. Apparently, they found your practical choice, shall we say, less than fashionable for a company like ours." He paused, his eyes gleaming. "Tell me, Ms. Vance, how did you respond to their observations?" Elara met his gaze directly. "I explained that my focus was on the role, not on adhering to subjective sartorial expectations. I also stated that if a company prioritized superficial appearances over a candidate's qualifications and drive, it wasn't the right fit for me." A beat of silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken judgment. Elara braced herself for dismissal. Instead, Mr. Davies leaned forward, a genuine smile now gracing his lips. "A wise decision, Ms. Vance. We strive for excellence here, not for a runway show. Your candor and your clear understanding of priorities are exactly what we look for. The position is yours, should you choose to accept it." The words hung in the air, a shimmering revelation. Elara felt a wave of relief so profound it almost buckled her. She had walked in, ready to fight for her worth, and walked out holding the job offer she'd so passionately pursued. The bitter taste of past slights dissolved, replaced by a surge of vindication and a quiet, blossoming confidence. She had chosen herself, and in doing so, had found her place. The best shoes in the world. A curious amalgam of aged leather and a faint, metallic tang, reminiscent of machine oil, saturated the air of the workshop. Along one wall, rows of meticulously polished lasts gleamed, each a silent monument to a foot at once embraced. Elara's fingers traced the raw calfskin, surprised by its silken texture, like a baby's cheek. She'd anticipated a cluttered, dusty space, yet found it impeccably ordered, every tool a polished sentinel in its designated niche. "So, these are for me?" she queried, gesturing toward the scattered materials. Leo, spectacles perched at the tip of his nose, offered a gentle smile, a web of fine lines fanning from his eyes. He exuded the warmth of a kindly scholar rather than a master craftsman. Indeed, Elara. Not merely footwear. These will be your shoes. Crafted to your unique gait, your equilibrium, even your spirit, if one is inclined to such poetry. He selected a slender, arcing knife, its blade catching the ambient light. Our journey begins with measurement. Every curve, every angle. Your feet, my dear, are a topography I must chart. The ensuing measurements transcended any Elara had known. Leo employed not only a tape measure but an array of calipers, a pressure plate, and even an almost artistic clay impression of her arch. He meticulously recorded data in a small, leather-bound journal, punctuating the silence with a soft, tuneless hum. It was a painstaking, intimate process, yet surprisingly restorative. As he worked, Elara felt a deep relaxation unfurl, the tight knot of anxiety from her disastrous interview slowly dissolving. Material selection is paramount, Leo elucidated, presenting a swatch of deep burgundy hide. This, for instance, is vegetable-tanned Italian leather. It breathes, it conforms, it matures beautifully. Much like a vintage wine, or a particularly resolute young woman. He offered a swift wink. The sole will be triple-layered, hand-stitched, naturally. Cushioned to absorb impact, yet firm enough for steadfast support. No more feeling every single stone or fissure. Elara thought of her current, worn-out shoes, the ones that had invited such scorn. They had been purely functional, nothing more. These, however, represented an investment, a declaration. A declaration she hadn't realized she was so desperate to make. And the aesthetic, she ventured, a tremor of excitement in her voice. Something classic, perhaps, but, with a touch of defiance. Leo chuckled, setting aside his measuring instruments. Defiance, I can certainly oblige. I envision a subtle brogue pattern on the toe, perhaps. Elegant, yes, but anchored by a strong, confident line. And the heel, a robust block heel, unwavering, yet not so high as to compromise your natural stride. We'll select a lining that feels like silk against your skin, and laces designed to hold fast, no matter where your path leads. He sketched rapidly on a sheet of paper, the lines flowing with effortless grace. Elara leaned closer, captivated as the shoe materialized beneath his hand. It was beautiful, practical, and imbued with a quiet strength. It embodied everything she hadn't known she needed. These won't just be shoes, will they? Elara murmured, a profound realization dawning on her. They'll be a kind of armor. Leo lifted his gaze from his drawing, his eyes alight with a playful glint. The finest armor, my dear. Because the best footwear in the world isn't just about what you put on your feet. It's about the way you step into the world. He picked up a small, gleaming hammer. Now, regarding that arch support.